Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our recommendations to you for RoboCanada's facility placement determination. I'd like to speak to you about 3 specific topics. First, we'll discuss what we believe are the best 3 countries for RoboCanada to place their assemblage and warehouse facility. Then we'll go through what we believe the biggest risks are for those 3 countries and our recommendations to mitigate these risks. Lastly, we'll recommend areas that we have identified as additional risks to take into account that were not covered in the risk room. The 3 countries we felt were the best options based on the data in the Zurich risk room were China, Malaysia, and Thailand. These were determined using 2 methods. First, based on the team's knowledge of international business environments, an analysis was performed using the most important risk factors: inflation, exchange rate fluctuations, and quality of labor from the business environment perspective, and human rights, transport infrastructure, and electricity supply on the political and physical risk side. These 3 countries appeared to be the most stable and least risky options. We chose these specific risk factors because they are highly important to the task being asked of the country, and they fluctuate the least from a day-to-day basis. These countries also decrease the amount of freight and wait time necessary between the warehousing facility and the final customer, as can be seen from the map. When compared to England and Canada, these 3 are also relatively close within the risk room, especially when compared against RoboCanada's other country options. An analysis of RoboCanada's motives using Gemawatt's AAA framework and aligning it with their chosen 7 countries, it can clearly be seen that they are concentrating first and foremost on an arbitrage strategy. In moving to any of the countries, they will be taking advantage of proximity to their clients in Asia, which will lead to faster service times and quicker access to products ordered, as well as less expensive labor. We looked at the key strategic levers that accompany this type of global strategy: cultural, country of origin effects; administrative, taxes, regulations, security; geographic, distance and climate differences; and economic, differences in pricing, resources, and knowledge. Within the risk room, we were able to run an analysis that held all risk scores equal, except for inflation, burden of customs, exchange rate, quality of labor, currency and convertibility, transport, electricity, and information. Using this methodology, Malaysia, Thailand, and China again rise to the top as the best options for placement of the assembly and distribution center. There are several methods of risk mitigation that can be used, especially from a political and physical risk perspective. Human rights risk can be mitigated by investing in local talent, employing people who have intimate knowledge of the country and its challenges. This will not only assist with the human rights aspect, but can help with the customs risk factors as well. Transport infrastructure can be mitigated using strategic planning of the location of the assemblage facility. Depending on how RoboCanada decides to ship their finished goods, placement close to a port or airport could be possible. Electricity supply can easily be mitigated by the use of alternately generated power. From the business environment perspective, not very much can be done, but the quality of labor can easily be affected by inserting a training facility in conjunction with the assembling facility. The workforce can be trained and evaluated in order to make sure that the best possible people were employed. Understanding that the Zurich risk room cannot answer all questions, the team flagged some concerns that may need additional research. A risk interest arose in terms of freight logistics in the product itself. There could be shipping constraints based on product dimensions that could alter the placement of facilities. Another unknown that could pose as a risk is the required service level, for example, inventory available to orders. This is important in order to determine working capital and shipment mode. The amount of working capital necessary itself is another concern. Whether plane or ship is the method of transport, high working capital will be necessary in order to decrease the risk of disruption, especially as the current supply plan is from Northern Africa and Southern Europe. RoboCanada must be able to take on this risk. Knowing the profit margin of the product that is being kept on site may be able to help define this risk. Overall trade capability showed 2 risks that needed further investigation. First, fluidity of trade between destination countries and distribution countries must be learned. For example, is it particularly difficult to move materials from China to South Korea? Friendliness to foreign investors is a risk that must also be researched. While import and export data can shed some light on this factor, it does not provide the clarity necessary. Lastly, the lack of forecasted data is also a risk. While forecasted data is partially based on what has happened in the past, in order to make a good final judgment of the placement of this facility, the future projections of these same risks should be seen. Forecasted data is not only necessary for the risk data itself, but additionally for the prospective growth of the demand for RoboCanada's products in this region. Such information could sway placement as home country growth and proximity to future demand could support an early adaptation strategy. Information that would help with this risk would be projected demand growth for these current Asian markets, as well as the prospective distribution countries. Thank you very much for your attention,